Today we continue with Daniel chapter 8, and I find that 7 through 12 are again the prophecies. Also, you get the idea that many of these prophecies, he's giving more and more information, more detailed information as he's going. But he spreads it out over many years so that, it doesn't overwhelm his audience. We have the first one is in the first year of Belshazzar, the king. The chapter 8 is in the third year, so you're 2 years later when you see the vision in chapter 8. Chapter 9 is in the first year of Darius. Now again, we know that there was about a decade that Belshazzar reigned. And so he reigned about a decade, so you're about 10 years down the road when you get to him. Then chapter 10 is in the third year of Cyrus, and then chapter 11, the first year of Darius. And so we go through that. So we have it spread out. So we begin in 7 where he does have those visions where he talked about the four beasts. And he talked about the beast that first came up was like an eagle, was like a lion with eagle's wings. And the second one was like a bear with ribs in his mouth. The third one was like a leopard with wings like a fowl. And he goes through these. And we can go back and study them. This is something you probably need to do on your own because it's got some very good information in these. I just can't do all the little diagrams and stuff that would show this. It talks about the fourth beast. He describes it as just exceedingly terrible and strong. And it brake and devoured and into pieces and stamped in the residue with its feet. He considers the horns among them, and there was a little horn, and which was among the three of the first horns. And he talks about the horns, and the horns are leaders that come into play here. And they go on till the thrones are cast down, and the Ancient of Days did sit, whose garment was white as snow. So again, this is going to go on. But the Ancient of Days, which is Jehovah, is going to intercede. And so he will talk about this. And he talks about, and he saw these visions, and behold, one was like the Son of Man, came out of the clouds of heaven and came to the Ancient of Days. So again, we see this Adonai going to see Yahweh. So this is very good things. It says, I, Daniel, was grieved, and I came near one of them that stood by, and he asked for the interpretation. And he talked about the great beast shall arise out of the earth, and the saints of the Most High shall take the kingdom and possess the kingdom forever. That's the end game. The saints of the earth, those that believe in Jehovah, and that's us because we believe in Jesus, and Jesus is Jehovah. So we're the same one. He talks about the war against the saints in chapter 7, details it a bit, talks about the 10 horns, goes back and gives these people information about what's going to happen in 7. In 8, which I said is 3 years later, in the reign of Belshazzar, a vision appeared while he was in the promise of Elam. And he looked up and he saw a ram. And this ram had 2 big horns. And it pushed itself to the west and to the north and to the south. It pushed itself all around. And no one could take out of his mouth. But then while I was considering that, a goat came up from the west on the face of the whole earth and didn't touch the ground, and the goat had a notable horn between his eyes, this big horn. And he goes in and he smites the ram so much that he tears it down and breaks him down, and he casts him down to the ground and stamps him into the ground, and there was no one to deliver the ram out of his hands. And the goat waxed strong, and he had a big horn, but his horn broke up into 4 little horns. And out of those little horns came an even smaller horn. This horn magnifies itself. Now, these are all leaders. We're going to get more of an interpretation in 8, just who this is. They're going to tell us. He's going to meet Gabriel, and Gabriel's going to tell him farther in 8 that the ram that goes and beats itself to the north and the south and the west was Medo-Persia. And this is before Medo-Persia has taken on. Again, this is before a decade before Medo-Persia came into Babylon. So he's giving this information ahead of time. But he's also saying there's a great horn coming up. And he says it's going to be Greece. Now, that's as far as he goes by telling us the interpretations. But out of them, we know from history that when Greece fell after Alexander the Great, it broke up into 4 parts. Okay, so those 4 parts broke up. And then he's saying that out of that will come this little horn that will be exceedingly great, and it'll go to the south and to the east. Now notice these others had pushed to the south, north, east, and west. This guy pushes to the south and to the east. So obviously he's, north and west of where you're going if you're pushing south and east. towards the pleasant land. So you get the idea that this little horn comes out of something similar to what we would call Europe, in that area, Eastern Europe there, or maybe more Western Europe proper. You get the idea of that because of these wordings. And he magnifies himself even to the host of heaven, and cast down some of the host from the stars to the ground. Not sure exactly how he can bring down these. Some are speculating missiles. I'm not going to go too far to say that's not beyond the possibility, because they wouldn't have known about missiles. It would have looked like, again, calling down stars from the sky. But also, we're going to let that kind of sit. That's a little bit of speculativism that I don't really do. But it says he will magnify himself, and he'll take away the daily sacrifices. So those are back into play. That's why you're really leaning that this is end time stuff. And the place of his sanctuary is cast down. He takes down the sanctuary. And a host are given him against the daily sacrifices by reason of transgression. This is interesting because we have people turning against Israel for how Israel is treating the nations around them. And here, we says the host is giving him against the daily sacrifices by reason of transgression. Because you're a transgressor, we want you to stop doing your stuff. And it cast down the truth to the ground, and it practiced and prospered. So we lose truth here. And I heard one saint speaking to another saint, and these would be the supernatural beings. How long shall the visions concerning the daily sacrifice and the transgression of desolation to give both the sanctuary and the host to be trodden underfoot? So this area is going to be trodden underfoot. And he says it's going to be for 2,300 days. And so the intent it's going to be cleansed. So the holy area will be for 2,300 days. At a 360 day, you can kind of see that that's over 6 years. The idea here that that's going to happen. Very interesting thing, you know. So we see this happening. You can kind of do the math on that one because I forgot to. And so I heard the man's voice between the banks of the Ural and said, Gabriel, make this man to understand the vision. God doesn't like to keep us in the dark, but he doesn't tell us everything. There's still some faith to be involved. And he went near and where I stood, and when he came, I was afraid and fell on my face. Understand, son of man, for the time of the end shall be of this vision. And while speaking to me, I was in a deep sleep. Behold, I will make thee to know what is the end of the indignation. The ram which you saw is Medo-Persia. So that's going to happen. And the rough goat is Greece. And the great horn is between his eyes is the first king. Now, there are other kings coming, because he's called the first king. And now, that being broken, four stood up, and four kingdoms shall stand up out of that nation, but not in his power. So we did see that when the areas of Alexander were broken up, there wasn't really a strong major power player out of that. They all kind of had equal power. No one had great power. But in the latter time of their kingdom, then the transgressor shall come to the full, a king of fierce countenance and understanding dark sentences shall stand up. This is the guy to come. This is the guy on his way. And his power shall be mighty, but not by his own power, and he shall destroy wonderfully. This is a terrible guy. He's going to destroy. And he shall prosper and practice, and shall destroy the mighty and the holy people. He's going to go against Jerusalem. And though his policies, he shall cause craft to prosper in his hand, and he shall magnify himself in his heart. Again, that's not a good thing. And by peace he will destroy many. Here's a guy who rules by peace. And so he's going to take this by peace. He's going to make this happen. All this war happens by peace. It is a necessary war, he's going to say. And he shall stand up against the prince of princes. I wonder who that was. But he shall be broken without hand. And the vision of the evening and the morning that was told is true. Therefore shut thou up the vision, for it is for many days. And I, Daniel, fainted and was sick, and I rose up and did the king's business, and I was astonished. But no one understood why I was astonished. So we see he's got this thing going in chapter 8, this big vision, where he goes and has this vision, and he sees all the horns, and he's even told what's going to happen, and he leapfrogs from the 4 horns, and this little horn is going to come up, but that's in the future. So God is always giving us these cliff notes, the important information. Yeah, it's over 2,000 years between, the breaking up of the horn and the coming of the Antichrist. the coming of this prince who's going to go against the princes. But it's interesting how God does this. In the first year of Darius, the son of Ahasuerus, the seed of the Medes, he has in the first year, I, Daniel, understood by the book of the numbers of the years. See, he went back and studied Jeremiah, he says here, and he knew that there were only going to be 70 years. So the 70 years hasn't happened yet, but he knew there were only going to be 70 years of this desolation that God had told. So here's a guy reading the Bible. So it's really cool. And I set my face with sackcloth and ashes and supplications, and I prayed, O God, the great and dreadful God, keeping the covenant of mercy of them that love them and to keep his commandments. He goes in to this prayer that he does. And when you read through it, he is saying what God had said that the people were sinners and they needed to come back. They needed to come back to God. He even admits that. We have sinned and committed iniquity and done wickedly and have rebelled. Neither have we hearkened unto thy servants the prophets, which spoke in your name. O Lord, righteousness belongs to you, but unto us confusion of faces. Now he gets to this point of confusion. Everyone's confused. There's this confusion of faces. People are confused. They don't know what to go. They don't know what's going on. They don't know what's going to happen. There's this confusion of faces to our kings and princes because we sinned against you. And he talks about God having mercy. Yea, all Israel has transgressed thy law, even by departing, that they might not obey thy voice. And he talks about, you've written by the law of Moses, and it has confirmed his words, which he spoke against us, and our judges that judged us have brought upon us a great evil. So they're blaming themselves for their sins. As it's written in the law of Moses, all this evil has come upon us. Yet make we not our prayer unto the Lord God, that he might return from our iniquities. So they also go to their history to find out that, yes, they've sinned horribly, but they also can pray for mercy and forgiveness. Therefore hath the Lord watched over this evil and brought it upon us, for the Lord our God is righteous in all of his works. O Lord our God, that hast brought forth thy people out of the land of Egypt with a mighty hand, O Lord, according to all your righteousness, I beseech you, let thine anger and the fury be turned away from the city of Jerusalem. He's doing this repentance thing for the people. He's calling out. He sees that the 70 years, he's understanding, accepting their punishment. O God, hear the prayers of the servants, of his supplications, and cause his face to shine upon thy sanctuary. He asked God to incline his ear. O Lord, hear. O Lord, forgive. O Lord, hearken. Defer not for thine own sake. And he goes, while I was speaking and praying and confessing my sins and the sins of the people, and representing my supplications before the Lord for the holy mountain, and while I was speaking, even the man Gabriel, which I saw in the vision, at the beginning, being caused to fly swiftly, touched me about the time of the evening oblation. And he informed me, O Daniel, I am now come forth to give thee skill and understanding. So while he's praying, God sends Daniel on his way. And this is one of the most important information that we have in the whole Bible, because we are in the midst of this. He talks about how long this transgression will last. Yes, there's going to be 70 years to let the land be fallow and let the land be cleansed, but you still have to cleanse the people in the temple. And so he's got more cleansing to do, and there's more iniquity for transgression to be taken care of. This was only part of it. The being set apart for that 70 years was not going to be the whole thing. So he warns them and informs them that I have come forth to give thee skill and understanding. At the beginning of your supplications, a command went forth, and I came to show you, for thou art greatly beloved. Sometimes we think we have to pray and beg God for things. Here he's showing that at the beginning of your supplications, I was there. I was on my way. So 70 weeks are determined upon your people. And then the 70 weeks of years is what this is. 490 years. And upon the holy people to finish their transgressions, and to make an end of sins, and make reconciliation for iniquity, and to bring in everlasting righteousness. So he talks about this. And so we've got these 70 weeks of years that are coming. Therefore understand and know forth from the going forth of the command to restore and rebuild Jerusalem unto the Messiah the Prince shall be 7 weeks, and then 62 weeks, And the streets shall be built and the walls, but even in troublesome times. And after 62 weeks shall Messiah be cut off, but not for himself. What he's saying here, that Messiah is going to come, but he's going to be cut off and not for himself. And so we look at what he says is there's going to be a week, and then there's going to be 68 weeks. So what happens is we have, that's where we get the 69 weeks of Daniel, that there are 69 weeks that are going to happen in this time period. It's 69 weeks from the establishment of the edict to rebuild Jerusalem to the Messiah the King will be 7 weeks and 62 weeks, which is that's 69 weeks. So it's 69 weeks, and if you did that with a 360-day calendar, you can figure that up. One guy did. Sir Robert Anderson, in the book The Coming Prince, was one of the first to document that. He is from this is written from the 1800s. In the inside, you'll note that it's written in a style that's very 19th century. It's a very good read. Get a hold of it. He really takes this out. It's funny that Sir Robert Anderson, I was reading here, he became a respected member of the Irish Home Office and an expert in criminal investigation. Here I am talking about grid work. Here's a man who walked the grid with Scotland Yard, and yet he read the Bible and made his decisions based on grid work. But go ahead, he talks about this. There's going to be 69 weeks, which people have added out to 17,880 days. Now, historically, we know that the edict was made in March 3rd, 445 BC. And if you go over 17,880 days, you land on April 10th, 32 AD. April 10th, 32 AD was when Jesus came in riding on a donkey. So the 69 weeks were done. But we're stopping now because of the transgressions that are taken care of by, it says that he shall be cut off, but not for himself. And then we got one more week to go, and that's what we in the Christianity call the tribulation, but it's the 70th week of Daniel. It's on its way, and there's a lot of information about it, especially in Revelation. But here, this is the background. This is the impetus. And again, when you go from 7, 8, and 9, you see them growing. Then 10 and 11 also deal with other things, but you see the growing in depth of understanding. So the 69 weeks are here. After 62 weeks, the Messiah will be cut off, but not for himself. And the people of the prince that shall come shall destroy the city and the sanctuary, and the end thereof shall be a flood, and the end of the war of desolations are determined. He will confirm the covenant for 1 week. Now, we've got this person who creates problems for that he shall come and destroy the city and the sanctuary, but then he's going to set it up, and he's going to make a promise for 1 week, which is a 7-year period. But in the middle of that, he's going to cause the sacrifice through the oblation to cease, and the overspreading of the abominations he shall make desolation. We're going back again. That refers again to chapter 8, talks about the desolations in verse 13, where they ask, and this was years earlier, the one saying asks the other, how long shall the vision concerning the daily sacrifice and the transgression of desolation? Here we're giving more information about this prince that's coming, and this is not Jesus. This is a prince that will be brought up. This prince will go over, and this prince will cause desolation, even until the consumption, and then that has been determined, and it should be poured upon the desolate. So we've got this happening. He's revealing more and more about the future to Daniel. So Daniel 9 is a very important chapter. There's a lot written on it. Please go do your own homework. But here's where we see the 77s, the 69 weeks, and 1 more week to go. So we're going to see this happen. I don't know when the 70th week is going to start, but we do know there are certain things that have to be in place. And you get the idea that there is more of a one world governance over the whole world. And we could see that happening soon. A one-world monetary policy could be coming, etc. So look at Daniel 9, look at Daniel 8, and start learning, growing, and then we will probably be seeing. So let's make sure we see what's in here so we can see what's out there. Thank you.